everybody. Welcome back to Day 2 Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Oceanside. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by HOKA Master Spas, deboer wetsuits, Quintana Roo, and, of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Mr. Justin Riele, and it's our first time meeting. How you doing, Justin?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Bob. Thanks for having me. Long-time fan of the show.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Back in 2019, my first ever Ironman, which was actually in Kona.
Yeah.
I watched your live show.
Your first ever Ironman was in Kona?
It was, believe it or not. I had a weird loophole where I won 70.3 Hawaii as an amateur.
Oh, yeah.
And I got the one slot per age group. And
wow.
I was like, man, I've never done a 14-mile run before in my life. I might as well go do the Ironman World Championship.
What the hell?
Yeah, why not?
How was it?
It was great. I had no expectations. Just soaking in that first Ironman is such a great experience. And yeah, those were back in the days where I wasn't really competing. I think I was 50th in my age group.
Yeah.
You know, just having a ton of fun out there, and definitely got the bug to go back to the Big Island someday.
So some of these fun little stats from you. You have the record for the slowest ever pro 70.3 debut.
I think so. Unofficial record.
Unofficial
record. 5 hours.
5:45.
Yep.
And so what'd you borrow a bike, borrow a wetsuit? Take me through what happened there.
Yeah, that both of those things for sure. I graduated from college in 2016.
From where?
Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Yeah, I studied neuroscience and I sang and I was in a frat. I did basically zero athletics.
Right.
And I was like, man, I've been drinking beer every night. I had a job in consulting. I was like, it's time to get in shape and do something with my life. I'm going to start exercising.
Right.
Got into swimming, biking, and running. I had a background in water polo.
Wait, you were a water polo guy?
I was a water polo player in high school.
So no autopsy, no foul. That's like the most brutal sport on the planet.
It's true. And it definitely translates well to this swim here at Oceanside.
Absolutely. Yeah. Could you throw some forearm shivers out there?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're first out of the water.
We'll see. Front pack would be good. Front pack is maybe not first out of the water, but right there. So
wow. Well, I mean, water polo is brutal.
Yeah.
And nobody works out harder.
Yeah. No, we trained hard. It was good. It had some double days lifting weights. I was probably 20 pounds heavier back then and not getting pushed around too much. So, yeah, I love the open water swim.
A lot of our early Ironman guys, Dave Scott was a water polo guy. Yeah. Bill Leach was a water polo. A lot of the early successful Ironman guys were water polo.
Believe it or not, Chris and Matt Lieto played water polo at my high school.
Did they really?
Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know who they were until 10 years later, but I signed up for that first race. It was in Europe, actually. I was mostly just backpacking around with a friend, and I was like, I could do a half Ironman. My dad did a full distance Ironman when I was 7 or 8. Wasn't super competitive, but did an Ironman, so it was always like a goal of mine.
He can do it.
Yeah,
what the
hell? If he can do it
in
11 or 12 hours, I can do it.
You're a water polo guy.
So I signed up, and I showed up, and I had no bag. Nothing showed up in Europe. I had to rent a bike, buy new shoes, didn't know what transitions were, didn't take in any carbs. I had a protein bar on the bike.
That's plenty.
I thought I did great, and I was 34th out of 37 in my age group.
5:45 as an age grouper is not a bad time.
No,
I've never smelled 5:45.
It's not.
I'm doing this crap a long time.
Yeah. But I don't think Christian and Gustav have ever gone 5:45 either.
No, I doubt it. Yeah. But so you really didn't start the sport till you were 23.
Yeah, correct.
And then you raced amateur for 5 years.
Yep.
And what got you to think, why not go pro?
It was just a little slow, gradual, linear progression. I think I felt like I had reached the point where I wanted to just see what it was all about and get a taste of it. I had won 6 70.3 overall amateur titles. Here in Oceanside, actually, I have the amateur course record.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that?
2022, 4 hours and 2 minutes.
4:02?
And I rode solo 2:12. And I looked at the bike splits after the race and thought, all right, Rudy and I think Canute had ridden 2:08. And I was like, I think I'm right there. And when you're solo and amateur, you don't have the 12-meter draft. You don't have the bike dynamics. You don't have people pushing you. And I was like, all right, I think in a year or two I can ride with the best. And I ran with Paula Finley in that race. Kind of bridged up to 10 minutes and ran right behind her. And great times. I mean, I have fond memories racing here as an amateur. And so I made the jump to pro, and here we are a few years later.
I love that. And then when I look at your 2024, 4th at Mont Tremblant, and here you are. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, like what, 6 70.3, something like that. Yeah, that's a lot of racing. It's a lot of half marathons for someone without a huge running background.
Yeah, the running does take a toll on me. It was something I had to learn to do.
Yeah.
My first 70.3 run was 2 hours and 10 minutes. And, I'm down to 118, 117 last year at Mont Tremblant. And, it's not quite at the level of the top in the world. But I'm in the mix on the swim and the bike right there. And so the run I'm still working on, still chipping away for sure.
Yeah, and so the other one, you got into a T100 race.
Yeah.
Just getting an invite there.
Yeah. That was a big win for me. I mean, I had some strong results last year. I was 8th here in Oceanside, which was really my first big pro result.
Yeah,
8th place, it kind of, you tell people at work, like, oh yeah, I finished 8th. And they're like, oh, is that good? And I'm like, I beat, Joe Skipper, Matt Hansen, Patrick Longa, Chris Leiferman, like guys that I've looked up to for my entire amateur racing career. I was like, I actually beat those guys. Like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And kind of just started a chain of a bunch of top 10 finishes in the Pro Series, a 4th place in Mont Tremblant where I was racing for the podium with Matt Marquardt and Ben Canute. And I was 4 minutes off Lionel for the win. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of tasting it. And so racing T100 was a big step up for sure.
Yes.
I went in not super healthy, kind of the end of a very long season. When you get those wild cards, you only have a little bit of time to prepare. So anyway, I got a long list of excuses why I didn't do great there.
But you get 15th, but they invite the top 20, and it's a world championship field.
Exactly.
Every time you go to the start line, anybody 100%. Can win.
And I've never done a pro world championship. So for me, that was a great experience. That kind of, I went in really nervous. I wasn't really in a great mental headspace into that race. I let it get to me.
Yeah.
I think I pride myself as an athlete of having a really calm, collected headspace. I go into these races really ready to go, quite confident. But T100, I felt the opposite. And it impacted my physical performance quite a lot. So I think it was a good experience to go through before Oceanside, because with this caliber of a field we have this weekend, I'm finally feeling like I learned that lesson of how to approach a race where there is that amount of pressure and you have 3 world champions plus Lionel and all those guys.
Yeah, no, the field here is always great. And as you know from doing this thing a few times, it's just one of them. It's challenging, but it's cool, right? That you're out on the bike course. There's all this climbing, and then you've got the 10 miles into the headwind on Vandergrift, and then the run is on concrete, which can beat you up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's big crowds on the bike. I mean, on the run, you've got huge crowds, which will be right behind us on race day.
Oh,
and it'll be really fun.
Yeah.
And what's the rest of your season look like?
I'll finish this one up, and then I'm going to go down to Lima, Peru. Actually.
Wow.
Yeah. I love how triathlon, especially on the pro side now, is taking me all over the world.
Absolutely.
And I love just using triathlon as an opportunity to travel and see new places. My wife and I have been down to Ecuador and raced, and we've been to, I raced Nice at the World Championship as an amateur years ago.
Okay.
And, it's just fun. So I'm excited to go see Peru. And then after that, I'll be doing St. George, North American Pro Champs. I live in Vegas, so St. George and Oceanside are kind of my hometown races.
Right.
Done them many times. And then, we'll see what the rest of the season shakes out to look like. But, it's tricky because you got so many options now. You kind of can go in for these 200 wild cards. You can chase the Ironman Pro Series with the full distance.
And then you even mentioned Challenge.
Challenge.
There's so many great options. A lot of independent races as well.
Exactly. And so I think I'm probably going to continue to focus on 70.3 this year.
Yes.
And really try to chase some podiums in the non-Pro Series races. There's Boise, Santa Cruz, Louisville. There's a lot of opportunities.
There's a lot. You'll be up in Boise.
I think so.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We'll be up there. We have a new field house for our Challenge Athletes Foundation.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really, really a cool, unique. So the full, you're not thinking this year. You'll stay away from that for a while.
We'll see. We will see. I did Lake Placid last year and had a great race until about 13th. I was riding with Lionel and Trevor and Jackson until about a mile 101. And then kind of blew up last 10 miles and ran, I don't know.
3:12.
3:12. There it is. Yeah, you know my time. So I wasn't looking at the pace. I was like, oh, man, just get me to the finish line. This isn't pretty.
And it's not an easy run course anyways, but when you're not going well, that's never good.
Yeah, and really my sights, Bob, are set on Kona 2026. I want to get that qualification. I want to get back to the Big Island. And racing there as a professional athlete is like something I've never even dreamed I could achieve. And I really think I could get there. And so I'm focusing this year on developing my 70.3, getting my run a little faster.
Right.
And probably will then make the switch to full distance Ironman at the end of this year and early next year to try to get that Kona qualification.
So you're working 40 hours a week, corporate job?
I am, yeah. I work as a director of marketing for a financial technology company in San Francisco.
And so does that give you some freedom to travel a little bit?
They do, for sure. I just finished up a work call as we were driving into Oceanside. My wife looks at me and she's like, I'm stressed just watching you. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I roll. I respect Matt Marquardt a lot too, because he's pro at an even higher level than I am, trying to juggle medical school.
Absolutely.
But it is tough, like the two of us and others are going up against guys where this is their singular focus.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's I'm an amateur in the pro field.
Well,
I really
it's also you're playing with house money because you've got a real job.
It's true.
You've got a real
upside.
job.
All
you
upside.
get to travel to Peru and go to these cool places and race in Kona. And at the end of the day, if you get a paycheck or not,
100%.
It's not going to make that big a difference in your life.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
so
it's true. There's no financial pressure, but
you want to be
more
great.
than that, there's the pressure of, man, I've sacrificed a lot.
Right.
All my social time, I'm no longer golfing. I'm saying no to trips with friends and family things.
Right.
So it still requires that level of, I like beer and I'm not drinking. So there's a little bit of that.
At the same time, we're Peru. Come on now.
It's true.
You're going to Peru. You're going to some really cool places. Peru, Nice.
Yeah.
You're not going to Barstow.
Yeah, you're not suffering.
Yeah, you're going to
Absolutely.
really, really fun.
I mean, I absolutely love it. It's still just like my passion and my hobby. And
so, are you still singing?
No, it's been a while.
So you led an a cappella group to win the TV show The Sing Off on NBC, toured the world and met the Obamas.
Yeah.
That's
back
a mic
in the
drop,
day. That's
right?
like my previous life. I thought it would never get better than that.
No.
And here we are talking to Bob in Oceanside. So.
And overlooking the pier and this amazing, amazing race.
Yeah.
I love your background. It's really, really fun. And look at sponsors. What the hell?
First time.
What the hell? And
First year.
People like money and stuff.
Yeah. I'm actually getting paid money to do this.
To do
it's
this.
Crazy,
To travel to Peru.
Travel to Peru. Yeah.
Paying you to go to Peru.
Yeah. Last year I had one peg
You should do a
sponsor
business
feed.
plan on that.
I know.
How do I get paid to go and travel to cool places of the world?
You train 20 hours a week for 7 or 8 years, get a little lucky, have gifted parents, and then you can get there.
Yeah, not a problem in the world. But if somebody had told you years ago, hey, you're going to be a professional athlete.
I mean, I would have said, which sport?
Exactly.
What do you know? Way.
Wait, what? Water polo's done.
No, I was never big enough. Yeah. I was a very average athlete. I played baseball in high school, but I never threw hard enough. And then in college, I was, But yeah, triathlon's great because, I don't know, it is something to be said for if you work really, really hard. You have to be gifted for sure, but it just takes a lot of years and a lot of disciplines. You also see all sorts of body types, all sorts of backgrounds. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a working man's sport because you don't have to be excellent at swimming, biking, or running. You just have to be pretty good at all three.
Put the volume in. I remember with Dave Scott felt when he was playing water polo that I work out harder than anybody here. And as a swimmer as well. But he didn't have the genetics. Then he found a sport where if I work hard, I get rewarded.
Absolutely.
Right? If I put in the hours of swimming, biking, and running and high intensity and the rest of that, I can be successful and win the Ironman 6 times.
Absolutely.
And become the most dominant guy from a guy who was in 2 sports, water polo and swimming, that he was never going to be at the top level.
Yeah.
And it was really all about the hard yards. You put in those hard yards, you're not worried about you dedicating what it takes, you'll be successful.
Yeah.
And you found that.
Yeah,
you're living proof of that.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, I've just enjoyed the goal setting each year and each race trying to set a new benchmark and then, working with a coach to just see that progress tick up over and over time. And
how does your marketing background help? Because it used to be all it mattered was how you performed. Now it's your social media following. It's, how much attention are you driving? I mean, Lionel Sanders, Lucy Charles Barkley, Jan Frodeno. There's certain folks who have built that platform that racing is great, but it's not what's paying the bills at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I don't think my results alone without any marketing presence would lead to paying sponsorships.
Right.
In today's professional world, you need both. You can't have one or the other. I wouldn't have these sponsors without a bunch of top 10s in the pro series either. But it has enabled me to be, I think, successful in developing partnerships and just understanding what professional pro sport sponsorship means. For brands, it means, and I manage this as a
You're a brand.
Marketing. I'm looking at different marketing channels and saying, hey, what's going to have a strong return on investment?
Right.
How are they going to drive awareness, trust, sales? And so every time I sign a contract or work with a different brand, I really strive to understand what are your strategic goals, what's working well, what's not. And, just staying really organized with my calendar. I think that's something I'm able to do. And then one of my best friends, Kyle, who's here today, is, been a rock. He's been my right-hand man for years. And he sort of, we met through work and he was a training partner. And I said, hey, how about I coach you and you start making some content for me? in exchange. And we kind of started that way, and now it's developed into so much more. And, he's coming to Peru with me. He's contracted by some of my sponsors as a, videographer,
Everybody
photographer.
wins.
And so it's been really great because you need a team around you to build that media, because I don't have time or the talent to be able to take my own photos or make my own Instagram content. So I've been trying to grow that. Not as much focus on that as training, of course, but some and a good amount of it.
But being able to understand, because you're a marketing guy, you can sit down with a brand and say, okay, what are you, and sometimes I bet people looking back at you like cross-eyed, like, what do you mean? And it's like, they're used to, I sponsor an athlete, he gets performance, and we pay him some bonuses. And you're like, so I'm a marketing guy. What are your plans? How can I enhance that?
Yeah.
How can I take that to another level? So they're meeting somebody who almost becomes their marketing director.
I hope so.
Right?
Yeah.
You're sort of directing them in the sport and giving them success.
Yeah.
So that they win, you win, the sport wins.
Exactly. You really want to be an extension of their marketing team as an athlete, because that's what you are to them.
Exactly.
And the results are great, but you gotta, if I'm not going to podium at Oceanside, and they know that, but I can still deliver strong value.
Absolutely.
I still want to be at the front of the race and get some camera time. Don't get me wrong. I plan to be at the front.
Back in the day, this is before the internet. We're talking the 90s and stuff. We had a guy named Chucky Valupak who had the Mohawk, right? And he had Gatorade sponsorship. He had a number of different sponsorships that pros were doing better than him. He finished 15th in Kona, 15th and 11th. 16th and 11th. So when the money went 15 deep, he finished 16. When it went 10 deep, he finished 11th, right? Yeah. But he had this on the road to Kona by Chucky V with Gatorade. He had all this really cool stuff, but he felt guilty. I think he felt guilty that he didn't deserve it because he wasn't on his 8. I remember an agent told me once, the only thing you deserve as an athlete is the money that goes with how you finished. Everything else is based on it's not performance based. It's performance based in a different way. What your looks, how you represent the brand, your in this day and age, your social following, all of that is an integral part of making you a successful athlete and representative.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking time, man.
Yeah,
a
thanks
pleasure
for having
to get
me,
to
Bob.
meet you. Justin Riele has been our guest. Again, that's a wrap for day 2. Breakfast with Bob tomorrow morning. Check us out. See ya. Thank you.